We are delivering today the iPad, the new iMac, the iPod, iPhoto, MacBook Air, iTunes. It's a revolutionary moment.
In 1997, Apple was 90 days from collapse. Its stock was sinking. Its products were failing. Analysts publicly predicted bankruptcy. Few would have guessed that within 2 decades, this same company would become the most powerful corporation on Earth. Today, Apple influences how billions communicate, work, shop, and even think. But behind the polished keynotes, the minimalist stores, and the carefully scripted product launches lies a far more calculated story. Apple's rise wasn't just innovation, it was control. It was ruthless internal power struggles. It was aggressive tax structuring. It was legal warfare against competitors. It was an ecosystem so tightly sealed that leaving it feels like punishment. Names like Steve Jobs, Tim Cook, Jony Ive, and Eddie Q are celebrated as visionaries. But the methods that built Apple's dominance are rarely examined under a harsher light. This isn't the fairy tale about a garage. This is the story of how Apple built a digital empire and the secrets it fought to keep hidden. In 1985, Apple's board made a decision that sent shockwaves through Silicon Valley. Steve Jobs, co-founder, public face, and creative engine, was forced out of the company he created. The internal war between Jobs and then CEO John Sculley had escalated beyond repair. Jobs was brilliant, but volatile. Former employees described public humiliations, screaming confrontations, and impossible standards. The board chose stability over chaos. Jobs lost. But what followed revealed something darker about corporate power. Apple drifted without him. Product lines multiplied. Focus disappeared. Bill Gates and Microsoft quietly tightened their grip on the PC market. By the mid-1990s, Apple was bleeding nearly $1 billion annually. Then in 1997, Apple acquired NXT, Jobs' new company, bringing him back. But this was not redemption. It was consolidation. Within months, Jobs slashed 70% of Apple's projects, fired teams, and dismantled divisions without hesitation. Loyalty meant nothing. Survival meant everything. Jobs returned not as a founder, but as a corporate executioner, and Apple's culture shifted permanently toward one word: control. From the late 1990s onward, Apple quietly constructed one of the most restrictive ecosystems in modern business history. While Microsoft licensed Windows broadly and Google built Android as open software, Apple locked everything down. Mac hardware only ran Mac OS. iPods required iTunes. In 2007, the iPhone launched under terms no other manufacturer had achieved. Steve Jobs negotiated directly with AT&T, stripping carriers of their traditional control over phone software. It was unprecedented. But the real power came in 2008 with the launch of the App Store. Developers could build businesses overnight, but only inside Apple's walls. Apple reviewed every app. Apple controlled distribution. Apple collected up to 30% of every sale. Critics later called it a digital toll booth. Supporters called it quality control. Either way, Apple positioned itself as both platform owner and gatekeeper. And once customers bought apps, music, or accessories, leaving meant abandoning investments. This wasn't accidental design. It was ecosystem entrapment disguised as elegance. The walled garden became Apple's most powerful weapon and one of its most controversial. When the iPhone debuted in 2007, it reshaped the mobile industry. Companies like Nokia, Motorola, and BlackBerry underestimated it. Within 5 years, most were collapsing. But Apple's brilliance wasn't just in hardware, it was in margin control. Under Tim Cook, who became CEO in 2011 after Jobs' death, Apple perfected supply chain dominance. Manufacturing contracts were negotiated with extreme precision. Suppliers competed aggressively for Apple's business, often accepting razor-thin margins for the prestige. Meanwhile, Apple maintained some of the highest profit margins in consumer electronics history. By the mid-2010s, Apple was capturing nearly 90% of global smartphone profits while selling far fewer units than Android manufacturers. It wasn't about volume, it was about extraction. Annual upgrade cycles became ritualized. Marketing campaigns framed incremental changes as revolutionary. Consumers lined up overnight. Revenue soared past $200 billion annually. Behind the spectacle, the machine was calculating, efficient, and relentless. And the deeper customers invested in Apple's ecosystem, the more predictable their spending became. In 2017, Apple faced one of its most damaging public controversies. Users discovered that older iPhones were being deliberately slowed after software updates. Online forums erupted. Accusations spread rapidly. Apple was forcing upgrades. Initially, the company denied intentional wrongdoing. Then it admitted to throttling performance on certain devices, claiming it was done to prevent unexpected shutdowns caused by aging batteries. The explanation was technical. The backlash was emotional. Lawsuits were filed in the United States, France, Italy, and other countries. In 2020, Apple agreed to pay up to $500 million in a US settlement. European regulators imposed additional fines. Critics labeled it planned obsolescence. Apple insisted it was protecting user experience. But one truth remained: slowing older phones increased the likelihood of new purchases. Whether protective or profitable, the decision revealed Apple's willingness to prioritize ecosystem stability, even at the cost of transparency. Trust, once questioned, never fully resets. In 2016, the European Commission accused Apple of receiving illegal tax advantages in Ireland dating back to 1991. Investigators claimed Apple had routed billions in profits through Irish subsidiaries that existed largely on paper. The ruling demanded that Apple repay over €13 billion in back taxes. Apple's response was immediate and aggressive. CEO Tim Cook publicly called the decision political. The company appealed. The case became a symbol of global debates about corporate tax avoidance. Apple maintained that it followed the law in every jurisdiction, and technically, it often had. But the structure allowed Apple to accumulate over $200 billion in offshore cash at its peak. This war chest wasn't accidental. It gave Apple leverage in acquisitions, in stock buybacks, in market stability. The optics were troubling. A company selling premium devices worldwide was minimizing its tax burden through complex international structures. Legal? Often yes. Ethical? That debate continues, but the strategy strengthened Apple's empire. In 2020, Epic Games, led by CEO Tim Sweeney, challenged Apple directly. By introducing an alternative payment system inside Fortnite, Epic violated Apple's App Store rules. Apple responded instantly, removing the game. What followed was a global legal battle over digital monopolies. Epic accused Apple of anti-competitive behavior, arguing that the 30% commission was exploitative, and that developers had no alternative distribution channel on iOS. Governments in the US, European Union, and South Korea began investigating Apple's platform control. Lawmakers questioned whether Apple was abusing its position as both marketplace operator and competitor. Internal emails surfaced in court. Executives were questioned under oath. For a company obsessed with secrecy, the courtroom became exposure. While Apple has so far preserved much of its model, regulatory pressure is mounting. The walled garden that built its dominance may soon face forced openings. And for the first time in years, Apple is defending, not dictating, the rules. Apple changed the world. That much is undeniable. It transformed music with the iPod in 2001. It reshaped phones in 2007. It built one of the most valuable brands in history. But it also built one of the most controlled corporate ecosystems ever engineered. Under Steve Jobs, it mastered narrative and product mystique. Under Tim Cook, it mastered operational precision and financial architecture. The same discipline that produces elegant hardware also produces aggressive legal defense, strategic tax positioning, and ecosystem lock-in. Apple's story is not purely heroic or sinister. It is strategic, it is disciplined, it is calculated. And as regulators circle and competition intensifies, the question isn't whether Apple was brilliant, it's whether its model of control can survive in an era demanding transparency. There has only ever been one Apple, but even empires face scrutiny.